I call this October 15th, 2025 Finance and Resource Committee meeting to order. It is 10:03 a.m. I will call the roll. Liz?
Yep, here.
And myself, Jason here. Moving on.
I will never stop laughing at the roll and votes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's in
Yeah.
reference.
Yeah, I move to approve the minutes from September 17th, 2025 Finance and Resource Committee meeting.
Second. And roll,
Yes.
And Jason, yes. And that passes. Also love the public comment. Anyone in the room? No? Okay, we can move along. And we go to Kevin for the 2024 referendum update.
Great, thank you. I love being first. So finally, I think that opening, if you look at the, can you pull up the record page, starting here.
This one,
The first one.
the one you got me pull up.
Yeah, the one right next to the tab,
This is the one you got me pull up.
but then the one next to that tab. Yep, that one, okay. So posted on the website and a handout for everybody is the September update. We're at a really good part of our process right now. We, as it is stated in caps, we know what is included in each phase. We've identified that work, solved each line item. As to the extent of the scope and where we can combine projects and gain some efficiency. We did all of our roofing projects at Eisenhower and Roosevelt and the Gym 4 refinishing at Montessori this past summer. That was owner directed work that we managed separately. All those projects, Montessori was just a little bit over budget, but the bigger projects, Eisenhower and Roosevelt came in under budget and are completed, and the savings on that money will be returned to the overall referendum budget, in particular to the owner roofing that'll be for next year. We're in the design development phase for Eisenhower, Madison, Roosevelt, and Washington. That'll develop into construction documents that will be sent out over the next couple of months for that summer of 26 work. Currently, in fact, today I was just at a bid walkthrough for the phase one work, which is out to bid. Phase one, you may remember, is all that exterior door work and things that didn't require a long lead time or design time. So VGS is walking those contractors through right now. It's expected that after scoping of that work, that construction, or predominantly all the door remodels, would begin in February. And it'll occur over the next 4 or 5 months. And that phase one work can be completed this summer. Again, the roofing projects are completed. And for 2026, I'm currently working on for the owner directed projects, the Washington and Madison roofing. And then we're going to try and also get Jefferson's roofing to take place in 26. It's a lot of work. The bidding climate is, we're gonna get out there early and try and make these projects attractive to bidders. Our fear is that it's just too much work at one time for some roofers. Now, we could always partition it off to 3 different contractors as well if they're qualified. So that's ongoing right now. There's a great graphic that gives a better explanation. Could you just scroll up 1 second? Really good explanation, kind of a really simple way to look at where we are in these phases and the forecast for the work in 26 and 27. Other than that, I have nothing else to comment on. Do I have questions?
Not really a question, but just to state for the record, everything I see here looks like we are on track, on plan, on budget. Everything, like, no news is good news is what I'm hearing, and that sounds fantastic.
Oh, yeah, no news is good news, right? Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we'll sometime in January, we expect to see the bidding stuff, or is that like,
Yeah, I believe,
when will that be brought to them?
well, we have a meeting for December 8th for the next update to the board. I don't know if we'll have our phase one bids back by then, but you would of course review those.
We felt that having another update, because I think you did one in the summer.
That was our first one, correct?
So we thought we didn't want to wait for the bids to come in, so we'll update the board in December. We have the one board meeting in December. We'll have it, and then there will be more information because the bids should come back and we should be presenting those around January or February.
Now I want to correct myself. I believe I think we timed this, the strategy was we'd have our verified phase two, CD budget confirmed, can report that to the board. And we hopefully have our bids for phase one back at the same time. But
We're crossing fingers.
crossing fingers.
We knew that was gonna be tight.
Correct.
So if we don't have the bids ready, then they'll be presented to you in January.
Yep.
Okay. That sounds good, and then, Liz, do you have any extra questions, anything else to add?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on to Jess, Director of Finance report.
Are you able to pull up the? Yeah, the first one you're on.
This one?
Yep, the director.
This is the one you want, right?
And then scroll down to. Oh, was it not a PDF?
It opened weird. Let me see if I can open it with a different one.
There we go. Okay, so scroll to page 3. All right, and maybe you make it a little bit bigger.
This is on board docs too.
Yes.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay, so the lines that were in black are the ones that I've been researching. According to this report, it looks like there is a variance from what we've done in the past. However, one thing to note is we are comparing our expenses to our preliminary budget, which was approved in July. It's approved in July. Since then, we have done a significant amount of updating account codes, specifically for our salaries and benefits, but also some of these other, like the 300s and 400s, to make sure that where we're coding things is where they're getting paid from, that they match up with Woofer. So as I was digging into these area 310s, nothing actually stands out. But when I'm looking into it, I'm looking into the proposed budget that we're gonna bring to you at the end of October. Not actually looking at where the preliminary budget sat. So 310 is not a concern. When I looked into 340, the variance there, I need to look into more. It looks like it actually got coded to an incorrect account. So I imagine that once I correct that account code, that will disappear. 370s looks like it's a timing issue. We pay CISA for a lot of services, and sometimes those have been paid in September. Once I got down to the 670s, that is on the screen, it's called principal. It's the principal of a lease payment. And it's our copiers. About a year and a half ago, we went to Gordon Flesh. We started that in December, so we're not a full 2 years into that. So it's still looking at 2 years ago, we didn't pay anything, but we're paying July, August, and September right now. Also, at the beginning of this year, we added a few more copiers to some of the schools. So we're increasing our spending there. And then when I look at the 940s, I also didn't see anything that jumped out at me. It's either a timing issue or it's the update of the budget that will then correct some of these. And then if you scroll to page 4, I want to point out that there is nothing with a variance. And I believe this is due to our hard work with actually coding things to where it should be and getting Skyward aligned with our grants, having the budget in the right spots and knowing what we're spending. So I was very excited to see.
Nice work. I think, and we've kind of been talking about it, I think at pretty much every meeting, that this report seems to get cleaner and cleaner each month as we go by, and I think we're just about to the sweet spot there, and that's great, and, I think, well, we'll talk about it with Scott, but it looks like the overall budget, we are really there's no major variance there, so that, again, that would lead me to believe that, yeah, it's likely just things being coded to the wrong area. I'm glad to hear that that's also your opinion. So I don't really have any concerns with what I'm seeing here. Anything, Liz? Okay,
Good job, thank you.
The only thing I would add, relative to Jess's report, is she mentioned the copier leases. We did add copiers. After a long study that, Cindy in our office did regarding the cost of making copies on printers versus copiers. So the trade-off was eliminating, printers in classrooms and a bunch of offices that it costs more to print each page on those
individual.
and centralizing copies.
Right,
So overall, we're saving, but again, with coding, when you eliminate one thing and move to something else, it sometimes will trigger something.
right, so probably move from some sort of capital expense or
I could have just been in supplies or something.
supplies or
Yeah.
something and moved over into leases. Yes, that makes sense. Okay, moving on to C, September financials.
Would you be able to open that for us, please?
Certainly.
Thank you.
This one?
Yeah, that'd be great. Okay, hopefully the fonts come through okay since it's open in slides. Yeah, okay.
Right?
Yeah, I uploaded this as PowerPoint, so depending on how you open. It's okay.
Everything else is fine, so.
Oh, okay.
And I put my,
Yeah, it's gonna, yeah. So continuing with the theme of, I guess no news is good news, or there should not be an expectation that there's fires to put out with financials. So, maybe that's a shift for us, but that is what we want. So, the idea here is, right, providing the board and community with transparency. And ideally that transparency goes with, and there's not a lot of fireworks, right? So this will continue with that theme. We are through now 1/4 of the fiscal year. We've got 3 teacher payrolls in order. And so we're zeroing in on that point where our projections are becoming more useful. Once we get to January, the predictive metrics are about 99% accurate. So we're approaching that. When we get to January, that's when we can't really get more accurate than that. But I mean, through September, you're gonna see a lot more interesting information than we did through August, for instance. Could you advance, please? So you'll see our purchase services are reverting to the mean, so we talked about that last month. Our salaries and benefits are trending below, but again, no salary increases have been given to any group yet, so we would expect them to be below. The the predictive analytics don't know that we're anticipating salary increases, so. We know that internally, so we should be seeing salaries below expectations here. I had my first meeting with CISA 5 last week, and they'll be providing their first analysis in November for the board.
Okay, quick question. I know we're still trying to figure out what that number for salaries and benefits will be. Is there? Do we have, are we talking today about any sort of update on where that process is?
I don't think we're trying to figure out the amount. We have a budgeted amount.
Yeah.
We have a budgeted amount. There are constituencies that would suggest that we should increase that budget amount. And ultimately, the board has to decide if you want to increase that budgeted amount or not. But as I've shared with you, as with individual board members, there are 4 competing interests with the budget overall. The first is restoring our fund balance. I think that's the number 1 goal that I've heard from the board. The second is to ensure that we have our obligations met through the commitments we made through the referendum. We made 2 in particular. One was to provide at least $2 million in teacher compensation on an annual basis for the next 4 years. The budgeted amount that we have meets that goal. The other commitment we made is that we would provide at least $1 million over the course of 4 years. Now, it's going to be a little uneven because sometimes curricular adoptions require a lot of money, and then there will be years where it doesn't. But on average, there should be a commitment of $1 million over the 4 years. As you heard on Monday night, we have a very big adoption coming up with math. And we projected that's going to be about a $1.5 million adoption. Whatever we can do to support Kevin and ensuring that Fund 41 is built up again, because right now we are hoping that any needs occur when we budget for them, that there's no emergencies. And, you know, we talked about the fact that we're transitioning with weather right now. I don't know what the heat's gonna look like and if all of our boilers will work. We hope they do. But it's not a good sign that we have our director of building and grounds crossing fingers every winter season, hoping that the boilers work. So those are the first 3 items that we have to do. And then if there's any more money left, then those constituencies that are asking for more than what we budgeted for, then that's where the board can say, maybe we can consider it. But as I meet with Scott and Scott meets with Jess and we're putting all the budget numbers together, that's the calculus that we're going through to try to prioritize things.
Okay.
Ms. Director, did I cover it appropriately?
Can I just say it's 4 million for curricular?
Yeah, 4 million over the 4 years.
So it's $1 million a year, not $1 million over.
Yeah, it's $1 million per year
Yes.
over the 4 years. Did I say it differently?
Yeah, you made it sound like it was $1 million over 4 years.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, it's 4 million. Yes, 4 million. I apologize.
Okay, so really, I'm trying to be apolitical, the way I say this. So the reason that we do not have a number for salaries and benefits is because while we are paying teachers based on the prior year numbers, we do not, we meaning the board, we not voted on anything. And I'm unsure as to like what the next step is to get that completed.
I appreciate what you're trying to do, Mr. Wadier. So I started, my first statement was more on the financial side. I'll try to now lean over to the HR side. We do have a budgeted amount. We have a certain constituency that we meet with, which is our teachers union, that has said, we appreciate you putting that dollar amount on the table. We think you can do more. So from a budgeting standpoint, we have a number. However, the constituency that we work with has said, when you consider the number that you're putting on the table and you consider the market and everything else, we are just asking you to consider a larger amount. And that's why we have not finalized that number. But we have budgeted a number, we do have a number, it's just that the group that we work with would like us to consider a larger number. And that's why I shared with you the other competing interests that the district and the board has, be it putting money into Fund 41 so we maintain our buildings, ensuring that we are meeting that commitment of ensuring that we're investing in curriculum. Those are all other competing interests. And the other competing interest that I know Ms. Olazowski will speak to is that we have made a commitment to have low class sizes. So when you have more people, you're stretching the dollar more. So those are all the other competing interests that are at play. Mr. Ecker likes to say he can make any numbers work. It really comes down to then what are the priorities that the organization is making? And we have a lot of priorities that we're trying to meet. The board has a priority of replenishing and bringing back our fund balance. We have competing interests around our maintaining our buildings. We have an interest of maintaining the lowest student to teacher ratio in the metro area. Those are all challenges and impediments to meeting the request from that one constituency group that would like us to consider more money.
Okay.
Did I cover that in a way that is neutral, but it puts all, but accurate and puts all the angles on the table?
Yes, thank you. As of right now, there's no scheduled action for the board in regards to this for the upcoming board meeting. Is that in a general sense, we do not have nothing for the board to vote on currently. And then if so, when this is to a point where the board needs to make a decision, are we able to act nimbly and quickly to put like an executive or what is it called, the not a closed session or the
Executive session.
executive or special session? I'm just saying to more or less say that I've gotten some emails and heard from some people about like where's the money for the teachers, and again, trying to be apolitical and saying, well, there are still negotiations. As soon as there is a consensus on those, they'll be brought to the board, and whatever is due from the beginning of their contracts will be prorated and back paid. Is that?
You're asking really good questions. So if you remember, we have had a conversation with the board, Ms. Elzowski and Mr. Ecker, myself. We shared with you what we thought a proposal should be, and we've had that conversation and have shared it with the teachers union. The teachers union have said, we appreciate that, but we think there should be more. And as the three of us have said, and that's their job to say that there should be more. They would be failing in their role as leaders if they didn't say there should be more. So, but I just want to put on the record, we have discussed what the offer should be, and that has been presented to the teachers union. Since we have not come to a consensus, we're still trying to talk with one another and find a middle ground. And we're hoping to find a middle ground. We think it's always advantageous to find a middle ground. But we don't have to. I want to be very clear. There can be a moment where we impose the dollar amount that we've already talked to the board with. Today is October 15th. Mr. Ecker receives the final number for aid from the Department of Public Instruction today. That's going to determine how much surplus. And as we said earlier, as we started this conversation, finances in a school system are supposed to be boring. It is somewhat exciting when we talk about surplus, but you have already identified, when I say you, the board, has already identified what your priorities are. You've identified that replenishing the fund balance is priority number one. You've identified that meeting the commitments that we've made with the referendum commitments is a priority. And so with the offer that we've put in front of the teachers union, we do meet that commitment of providing at least $2 million in compensation. The one area where we have to be diligent around is ensuring that we are providing at least $1 million on average over the 4 years, because we committed $4 million in that referendum piece. So I think, Mr. Wadier, you're asking good questions. Hopefully, the competing interests that I put on the table, along with what the teachers union is asking for, in the juxtaposition of what we've offered, all those different issues are on the table, and hopefully it is now a little more clear.
Go ahead.
So, at what point does the board and the administrative team say, like, we're just making a decision? Because to me, yes, like, respect and work with the union for sure. But at some point it becomes like a disservice to who they're representing.
Yes.
Because our teachers aren't getting the increase that, well, the step increase or the additional increase that they're also getting.
Yes.
And I know we had talked, probably 6 weeks ago, about hoping that we could get that so that they would have their back pay by the holiday season. So, and Sarah, you would know this, I'm assuming we're very close to that day where we can say you'll have your back pay and your new salary by the holidays. I think that is a fair commitment to make to our teachers. So I'm just hoping that at some point the board does get like a hard line from the administration. Hey, make a decision. It's either this or this. And if it means we're increasing the budget for teacher salaries, then that's one route. Or if it's what we've already discussed several times with what we have budgeted for teacher increases, then I think the board hopefully soon will get that sort of like
Message.
the three of you,
Yep.
like a hard message, like, let's make a decision so that the teachers do get their increases.
So Liz, today is the day.
Okay,
Today is the day that for business leaders across the state, once, and I think that, did the number come in already, Justin? Yeah.
Just looking at it.
Yeah. So today is the day, right? And so what Jess and Scott and their team will, now they have the number from DPI. They will then have, and I want to give them a few days
sure.
to kind of crunch the numbers. So I meet with Mr. Ecker every Monday. He'll come in this coming Monday to say, okay, Damon, this is where we're gonna land. I think we may have X amount of dollars surplus. Understanding that, I think at the budget hearing in July, we told you we would put at least $1.1 million back in fund balance. So then whatever is left after that, we have to prioritize.
Sure.
And the way that we're prioritizing things is, you heard it on Monday, we have to make sure that we have money for curriculum adoption. If after putting money into the fund balance and the money for curriculum adoption is taken care of, if there's something left after that, then technically it's just not automatically to teachers. I want to be very clear, because Mr. LaFountain has some needs too, because we can't, what we're doing right now is that we just simply rely on fund balance or referendum. And that's not good business. You know, we should start building up Fund 41. So today is the day. I mean, so I appreciate you kind of say, what's the timeline? That we're on the timeline. We'll have a final position, if you will, on if we can meet
Okay.
that constituency's request for more money after Jess and Scott have a chance to look at the numbers. We want to be respectful to them, them being the teachers union. We'll talk to them. I will give you an update for my role to say, after meeting with Scott and Sarah, this is where we are. And then you're right. Our goal has always been, let's get the new number in the hands of our teachers so they can get their back pay. And that our goal is, I think we can still get that done around the holiday season if we make some decisions in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Yes.
Sorry, just one clarifying question. Have non-teaching staff received their salary? Okay,
So I think the entire,
Yep.
the entire organized,
Got it.
you're asking a great question. And I think that's been a concern from board members. So I appreciate you elevating that. And I want to be on record as saying that the board has been saying, let's get moving on this. Because all of our employee groups have been stalled. And so we're anxious to get this done too.
Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. That was well asked and well said. That's what I was trying to say. She's just did it way better. So
And I wanna pause here and make sure, and I'm looking at the triangle here. Jess, Scott, Sarah, did I miss anything? And I'm sure I did,
Yeah,
so.
no, I think the only thing I would add is we've been very public about what we've budgeted.
Mhm.
And that's been on the table for the teachers for months. At any point, they could have accepted that
Mhm.
and there already would have been raises for them.
Right.
So we aren't sitting on money that we don't want to give them.
Thank you. Jess, anything?
No, nothing to add.
Sarah?
Nothing. Thank you.
well, let's get into this exciting surplus discussion.
There is not going to be a surplus. Well, we made it to the first slide. Let's go to the next one. Okay, so here's where it gets unexciting, and that's what we would expect, right? So here's our dashboards. You can see revenue wise, and you'll see later expense wise, we are almost exactly right on target like we would expect. Go ahead and move forward. Again, what I'm putting here is last month compared to this month. You might remember last month on the revenue scale. I pointed out you couldn't even see anything because, you know, through a couple months you don't get any revenue. Now we're barely starting to see that we've received something. So that will, you know, over months creep up. But you know, obviously you can see we've received something at this point. Go ahead. And it looks like our, at least in our room, the closed captioning is covering the graph, but that is state sources, so the large amount of our, thank you. The most significant portion of our revenue thus far has been in state sources. Next is local. At this point of year, local sources aren't taxes yet. That is things like school fees, maybe gate receipts at, say, athletic events, things like that. Okay, next slide, please. Here's our expenses. The two things I want to point out, and I will on each of these slides for expenses. Like I mentioned, salaries and benefits trending under. That is primarily because of the conversation we just had. So that will catch up when we move forward with those increases. And all our other objects are also now trending well. Go ahead and go to the next slide. Again, last month compared to this month, just pointing out, you know, we want the gray and the orange to be close. You can see how close that they are. If those get out of whack, that's when we start to, you know, dig deeper into things. Go ahead. This is last year on the left-hand side compared to this year on the right-hand side. This does not include projections, so it's simply current year to date versus budget. You know, through a couple of months, you wouldn't expect there to be any, with this sort of view, you're not gonna see very much. It's kind of typical financial statement. Go ahead with the next one, please. Okay, and now this includes our projections. You can see right now we're projecting to finish $1 million to the good. Again, it's really early, and $1 million to the good in this case would mean $2.1 million in the fund balance, since we've already budgeted a surplus there. I don't think we'll actually finish $1 million to the good, but that's the side of the ledger we want to be on this time of year. Could you move our pictures a little bit? Thank you. If you might recall last month, I was flagging purchase services and saying, I think that's gonna revert to the mean. And you can see we're already within, we're an $80,000 variance now. That's due to two things. One is what Jess has talked about is us getting better with our coding and budgeting where we code. Also, we've gotten better across the system, in particular with our subs, with our frequency of payment. So, one thing I noticed when I arrived is, across the system, we didn't have kind of regular intervals of payment necessarily. So it's really hard to predict how things are gonna be in the future if there's not a regular interval in the past. So the other thing that we've done is try and make those regular intervals so it becomes more predictive. And that's allowed us to really kind of zero in on where we should be as well. So a big thanks in particular to Nathan in HR for working with what is our substitute agency? EduStaff to get that coordinated. And I believe that's the last slide.
Okay, I had reviewed that prior, all of that made sense, and, I don't have any additional questions. Liz?
No, me either. Thank you.
All right, then we will move on to the 2025-26 state aid certification.
So I added this here because today is the day that DPI puts out state aid. I wasn't sure if it would be posted yet at this point. It has, our state aid. So I will add a slight modification to what Dr. Means was saying. Our state aid impacts our revenue cap. It doesn't indicate, we aren't going to get any more revenue. It's just how much goes to property taxes versus how much comes from the state. So that is what Jess and I are working through right now is this is what determines the levy that the board will take action on the 27th. So we had anticipated that we'd be losing about 15% of state aid, which is what happens every other year in our cycle because of the way we structured debt. That's almost exactly where it came in. So for the purpose of this meeting, we're right on target there with estimates. We're still working through what that means from an exact dollar amount for total levy, and that's what'll come to the board on the 27th. I know typically the board has a memo from me. I think the due date is Friday for the following board meeting. We're striving for that, but I've also talked to Dr. Means. I don't want to rush it because this is one of the, well, maybe the most critical thing financially for the year. So that may be delayed a day or two and you'd have something by next Monday or Tuesday. So that
Why don't we just, I've been trying to prepare the board. You'll get it next week, Wednesday.
that way we'll all
Plenty of
feel.
time before that.
Yeah,
That's great. I use the same saying at work. I don't need it done right now. I need it done right.
that's what we're gonna do.
We have a saying around here that nothing ever good happens when you rush. So we want to anticipate receiving the final memorandum from Mr. Eckert next week, Wednesday.
Okay.
That's all I have for D.
No more questions for me, Liz?
No, thank you.
All right, and we'll move on to the human resources update from Ms. Zelensky.
Good morning, and thank you, Javon, for having the slides ready to go. So just a few updates for you today. Javon, if you wouldn't mind going to slide 3. Yep.
Sure.
Okay, sounds good. I continue to add a little bit to the context of the areas that I'm updating you on. And so one of the changes I've made is to go ahead and add our targets, like from the strategic plan. So from a vacancy fill rate, right now we're exceeding our targets. We're 99.52% staffed with teachers and 98.31% staffed with our educational and operational support positions. Which exceeds where we were at the same time last year as well as the year before. Slide 4 related to our voluntary retention, this rate has not changed. Again, just trying to make note of the fact that we're exceeding our target as well as exceeding where we were at last year for that voluntary teacher retention. The next slide shows effective teacher retention. So this is educators who were evaluated during the 2024-25 school year and the percentage of those positions or those individuals that we retained. Jason, thank you for your question. I think in our last conversation, what does it mean to be effective? And it means that educators are performing proficiently or high proficiently in those two domains of our evaluation system. And so that the red line on the graph demonstrates where 90% would be. Again, and we've exceeded where we were at the year before, the 2 years before. The next slide just provides you with again a snapshot of an FTE analysis. The approved FTE at last spring was 904.82. When you look at what our teacher FTE is currently, both on the staffing plan as well as reflected in Skyward, you can see where we're at there. Educational operational FTE, that gives us a total of 902.25, and then we have a contingency of just over 2.5 FTE. I have been talking literally daily the past couple weeks with Stacy Clem, our Director of Special Education, related to the proposal that was shared with the board on Monday night related to student need that has arisen since the staffing plan was approved and developed. And you'll recall that we have made a proposal and are requesting an additional 5.0 FTE. My contingency based on the FTE that was already approved is just over 2.5. We have determined one position to go ahead and add, and that's a special education diagnostician and program support teacher that will primarily serve elementary level. Again, relieving some of the work that's being done by our coordinators as well as our special education teachers and case managers at our school sites. And so not only able to go ahead and work on student evaluations and assessments, but then also providing program support in the form of recommendations for services and behavior plans and those types of things. So once I officially add that to the staffing plan, which will probably happen today, then our remaining contingency will be about 1.5. And then knowing that the transfer of service would be an additional 5.0 if approved.
I had a question, that I didn't get a chance to ask the other night about the 5FT transfer of service. So I reread part of the document and, it had said that if approved, it would not affect the existing budget. Was that, did I read that correctly? And then if so, can you explain a little bit more to me? I just don't understand if we're adding the 5. How does it not affect the budget?
Yeah, I think the intended interpretation of that was that it's not going to impact the money that we are planning to have available for fund balance. It's not reducing that amount, which in the past it may have. Because DPI has approved that we can increase our levy based on the amount that those positions will cost. It's not impacting other areas that we've budgeted so far.
Okay.
To remove money for those 5 positions from a different area of our
Correct. We're not taking away from somewhere else to go ahead and support those
But
positions.
that is assuming that I don't know exactly where the levy will end up being, but that is essentially I guess my question is the 5 FTE additional money is kind of included in where we end up with the levy, which is where we have everyone's property tax will end up, correct? Okay. And then the second question, I guess not a question, but more of a comment. So for the special ed diagnostician, so is that the position where or if a teacher or someone maybe identifies that there's a need, or we already have an IEP or a 504 and there's a need, is that the person, we're now gonna have a specialized person to come in and do the diagnostic testing? Is that the purpose behind that?
Yeah, that is part of the purpose is that so that the diagnostic testing, we would just have additional resources to do that wouldn't pull away from case managers having to do testing or our special education coordinators.
It'll give us kind of a benefit of, so right now we have multiple people running what is supposed to be an apples to apples diagnostic, and, but now we would be having a singular person, which would give us that actual apples to apples diagnostic year over year. I guess, do you follow what I'm trying to say there?
I believe so. So yes, it will help with consistency in terms
Yes, that's what I'm asking for.
of evaluations and how they are done for students. I would say that based on my conversations with Stacy, and Luke Pinion, I would say that the greater benefit is that adding that position will take some of the burden off of our case managers and our special ed program coordinators, so they can be more hands-on with students.
Okay,
And I would elevate that as the,
So brass tacks, Mr. Wadier, what happens is often if there's a student or a group of students who are really difficult to try to find an intervention plan for, we're not providing as strong of support to the building level at the district perspective as I would like to see. So what happens is that we continue to tell the school, figure out a way to help that student or those group of students. If we can free up our special education coordinators so they can be more boots on the ground in that building, not just for an hour or two, but like a day, 2 days, 3 days in a row to create interventions for those students, the buildings will feel more supported. But right now, the way that we have constructed our special education coordinators, they're doing a lot of testing of students to see if they qualify for special education. We think we're not utilizing their talents enough. And it's too clerical and too esoteric, if you will, in terms of, well, we think that this is what needs to happen. We need people in those buildings supporting teachers and principals to address those issues. And so that's the goal with this shift.
no, I like it,
Right.
and I think you both have answered my question, and it really just gets us to a better structure for our special education, making sure students that have the needs are identified, and that's what it sounds like this is gonna add additional support there, which then takes away tasks and things that the rest of the special education staff are having to perform, which from what I heard is important, but maybe not the best use of their time. Their time could be better used on different aspects of what they're doing. Correct?
Mhm.
Great, then that's all I had for questions on that.
thank you. Javon, if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide. So we're a month and a couple weeks into the start of the school year, so we're tracking attendance. So you can see that the graded area would be attendance rates in the 2022, 23 school year, and I see an edit to make. In 24-25, we were right at about the same level. We started the year off well for 25-26. It's hard to see like the first month of that orange to the left. But we're just above that red line, which is our target, at 96% attendance. We know that if you go to the next slide, Javon, when our employee attendance is at or better than 96%, then our substitute fill rates are where we want them to be. And so you can see the start of that blue line for the 25-26 school year is a little bit better, but had a little bit of a different angle part of the way through October. So we'll see, what the next couple of weeks bears out. And then if you go to the last graph, this would be our educational operational staff fill rates. So relates to our special education assistants, our admin assistants, and those types of positions. And we're staying where we want to be. We want to stay above that yellow, or right at or above that yellow line. As that, if you think about the overall like demand and draw on our system, when our fill rates, especially for support positions, are higher, that means that our employees who are at work on a particular day are not having to do extra things. And so I always look at that as a measurement of the experience that our employees are having in relationship to who's available to meet the needs that we've planned for. And I like where we're at, to get started.
Okay, great. I did have, I guess it's maybe a question you have some insight into, or maybe it's something for the future. I saw, I think just this morning, federal government administration has either fired or slashed a whole lot in regards to special education from a federal level. How how do you think that will affect us at the district level?
So Mr. Pinion, had a national call yesterday, related to that topic,
Okay.
very specifically. So I have not had a chance to debrief with him what he has shared. What I've seen from DPI so far is that we should not see an impact, in our reimbursements or our funding. What I shouldn't suspect, what I have heard, at the federal level, and again, I'll learn more from Mr. Pinion, is that the staff members who take idea complaints, or other services, for those processes. I don't know what they are yet.
I assume it's probably in flux because it's
Yeah.
pretty new.
Yeah, it's in flux. The only thing I would add, I think Ms. Olzowski did a nice job. We are waiting to hear more through Mr. Pinion, is that we have to be hopeful that we have a really good Department of Public Instruction at the state level, special education department. So they will be able to fill the gap as the Department of Ed has slashed their entire special ed team. There's a lot of guidance that group provides to states. I think the reassuring thing that we can give to people in the short term is that DPI has a really good special education leadership team.
Okay. I would love for our communications and messaging to reflect some sort of statement like that in whatever the next piece that is that comes out. When you have, obviously, when you have a little bit more information.
That's been the challenge, Ms. Wadier. I appreciate that. I think that's been the challenge with what's been happening at the Department of Ed level federally. To figure out what is happening in terms of strategy is really hard. Because it doesn't feel like there's strategy. So for us to try to communicate it, what we try to do is to give it maybe a week, step back, and then analyze it. So once that's why Ms. Olzowski is referencing the call. We're going to try to continue to gather some more reconnaissance and information. And I would say by next week, we'll have some type of statement we can provide. No later than the next board meeting at the 27th, where I'll ask Mr. Pinion to maybe give the board an update. It's funny, I've had at least one parent come to me and in the last 24 hours asking the same question of what does this mean for our kids in our school system? So I appreciate you elevating the issue.
All right, thank you. Okay, then we will move on to 4A, confirm the next meeting date and a call to adjourn. What are we looking at?
I remember.
Chat with you. Is anything else on that issue?
What's the name?
The growth plans are also that evening at 5.
Oh, mine, yeah. Do you really want to meet that day then? It's a long day for you.
They're all long days.
Yeah.
Would it be
It'd be hard to
helpful to
move.
do it at, say, 4 PM? So you
Mm.
have back to back or something?
Yeah, if we are able, if we think we can keep it to an hour again, I think doing it at 4 PM would work because the growth plans are scheduled for 5 PM.
I think that's doable.
Okay.
I have a conflict, but I certainly can provide the information at a time.
Um, Yeah, thank you. All right, so let's target November 19th at 4 p.m. And we will try our best to wrap that up before the school plans start. Any other comments on that? No, okay, then I move to adjourn. May I have a second?
A second,
Okay, and Liz,
yes.
Jason, yes, the time is 10:58 a.m. And we are adjourned.